All right, guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about why you should stop counting calories and you should do this other thing instead. And in essence, I'll just give you the answer right now. It is control your insulin levels. And there are two primary ways that you do that. Number one is by changing the foods that you eat. So eating low glycemic foods will keep your insulin levels low. And also reducing the frequency of which you eat per day. All right. Now, the information we're going to cover came from a podcast that I watched with Mike Mutzel, and he was interviewing Dr. Jason Fung. And I just got Dr. Jason Fung's book. It's called The Obesity Code. So you can expect more videos on this particular topic coming up as I delve deeper into that topic. I'll also put a link to the podcast in the description in case you want to do some searching and researching of your own. All right, let's get into it. So the traditional model, and it's still very, very popular today, if you go to an expert and you tell them, I want to lose weight, they'll say, all right, we're going to reduce your calorie intake. So you've been eating 2,000, we're going to reduce it down to 1,500. And sure enough, over a month, 2 months, 3 months, your weight would decrease. But in the long run, and we've seen this from shows like The Biggest Loser, 2 to 5 years later, what we see is those contestants who lost all that weight, hundreds of pounds of weight, they, 5 years later, 2 years later, whatever it is, 95, I believe is the statistic, 95% of them regain all the weight, and then some. There is a reason why that happens. So let's take a look at the physiology of what's happening here. You reduce the calories, and so you lose weight in the short term. But what happens is your body's metabolism slows down because it wants to return to homeostasis, which is where you were before you lost the weight. And there's science to show why this happens. And we'll use the analogy of a thermostat. And this is a big cliche, but it really does work well to describe what's happening. Let's say the thermostat in the room is set to 75 degrees. That's homeostasis. Now, if we bring in a heater, we turn it on, and the room temperature goes up to 80, then the AC kicks on, and it'll bring that room temperature back down to 75. And people experience this when they're dieting. They're like, all right, I went on a diet, it worked for a little bit, but now I'm back to where I started. What the hell? So, they bring in another heater. And they've got 2 heaters blaring full blast, and temperature goes up to 80, maybe even 85 this time. But sure enough, the thermostat kicks on, AC kicks on, it brings it back to 75. That is exactly what happens with weight loss and with people going on these yo-yo diets. That is what happens. Now, the real question here is, okay, I understand that analogy, but how do I create lasting weight loss? And that's what Jason Fung talks about in the podcast that I'm going to put a link to with Mike Mutzel. But I have his book right here, and I haven't even started it yet. But let me just read the title. The Obesity Code, Unlocking the Secrets to Weight Loss, Why Your Body's Own Insulin is the Key to Controlling Your Weight. So the answer is controlling insulin levels. If you are obese or overweight, chances are, not even chances are, the science states that your insulin levels are high. And if they're chronically high all throughout the day, based on the foods you're eating and also the frequency in which you're eating, then over time, you're going to start to stack on weight. And the longer that you've been overweight or obese, you develop something called insulin resistance. And it gets harder and harder to manage those insulin levels and bring it down and to lose the weight. So know that if you've been overweight for a long time, it's going to be harder for you than it is for someone like me. I could drop 10 pounds pretty easily, and that's because of the insulin resistance that's been developed over time. So insulin is the key to moving that thermostat. If you want to bring it down from 75 to 70, then you need to lower your insulin levels and keep them low. All right, so what are the best ways to lower insulin levels? Well, changing the foods you consume will certainly do that. Low glycemic foods. I'll actually put a list to some low glycemic foods in the description so you can check those out and just bring more of those into your diet. You need to exclude the processed foods, the super sugary foods, because those are spiking your insulin levels sky high, and they're making it impossible for you to lose weight. It really is impossible to lose weight if your insulin levels remain high. All right, so that's number one, changing the foods you eat. Get those low glycemic foods in. That's number one. Number two, and this is equally as important, eat less times per day. This is why intermittent fasting has become so popular lately. It's because it freaking works. Naturally, when you intermittent fast, you close your eating window and you're just eating less times throughout the day. Every time you eat, your body's insulin spikes. Now, the magnitude of that spike will depend on the foods that you eat. I just spit on the camera. Can you guys see me? Okay. But regardless of what food you eat or what calories you consume, you will have a spike in insulin. Back in the 70s or so, people didn't work out. At least this is what I was told. I wasn't around then. This is what people tell me. People didn't work out, but they were still, relatively healthy people. They walked around, they functioned. There wasn't this big obesity, diabetes, heart disease issue that we have today. And why is that? It's because people ate less frequently throughout the day. They had their 3 meals and that was it. And an example Jason used, and actually this happened in my household too, when I was young. I'm like, Mom, I'm hungry. And she'd say, all right, I'm making dinner. It'll be ready in an hour and a half. Just wait. I'm like, but I'm hungry right now. Can I have a snack? No, you can't. You should have had more for lunch. There we go. So that was a big difference between then and the situation now where people are eating up to 10 times a day. So those 2 things you really need to manage well. What are you eating? And then how many times per day are you eating? And if you can bring the number of times you eat down from, if you're eating 10 or eating your 3 meals a day, right? That's pretty standard. And then snacking all day and in between those meals, that's got to stop. And if you are overweight or obese and you've been that way for a while, restricting your meals down to 3 per day is not enough. You need to go beyond that. And having 2 meals or even 1 meal a day, that's called OMAD, and it's also very popular. You need to do something more severe to counteract all of the insulin resistance you've built up over time. So intermittent fasting is a great place to start. OMAD, that 1 meal a day, is a great place to start if you're in an extreme case of obesity or overweight, or even if you were just really serious about wanting to cut down your weight. Reduce the number of meals per day and change the quality of the foods you're eating so that they're low glycemic. And that, guys, is the key to losing weight, according to Dr. Jason Fung right here. I was so excited. I had to share this information right now and make a quick little video before I even dove into the book. I'm not an expert in this stuff yet, but I was so shocked by what Dr. Jason Fung was saying. I had to relay that information to you guys. I hope this video is helpful. Look out for more videos to come as I get deeper into the science of what is happening here. But know that the cause of weight loss or weight gain is all about insulin. It's all hormones. That's what drives weight gain or weight loss. All right, guys, that is it for today. I'll see you in more videos. Let me know if this was helpful, and if you want more on this topic, I will be happy to oblige. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Aloha.